Scanning for audio.
Welcome once again to a Tin Dog podcast, talking about the God Complex. Ah, yes. I must admit, I've watched this twice, and my initial reaction was, that was fantastic, apart from the end, but that was a fantastic episode. But, as I've pointed out to many people, an entire podcast consisting of me going, that was good, wasn't it? And you either going yes or no, isn't really worth listening to, so I will ramble on, if that's alright, about this story.
The rooms have things in them.
There's a room here for everyone, Doctor. Even you. We're going to catch ourselves a monster.
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head. Chop, chop, chop.
It can be argued that the guy writing this was given a shopping list, just in the way that many Big Finish writers are given a list. He's told how it's going to end. Now, we can discuss the whole Amy and Rory leaving, and I'm using the rabbit ears here, at a later point, because, let's face it, the story definitely splits into two very definite parts. The first, inside the hotel. The second, afterwards. That's fine. Now, let's look at it on paper. The Girl Who Waited was, in many respects, the Dr. Light episode. All of the parts of the episode containing Matt Smith could happen when, well, let's put it this way, he was hired for one day, very much like in Blink, where the Doctor only really appeared in the story in order to appear on somebody's video collection, that sort of thing, so that the Doctor could have a story all to himself, very much like, say, The Lodger. So here we have the story in between the two, because next week, Closing Time, is a Doctor-heavy story. Now, if you were to be cynical, you could therefore figure out that everyone's coming back for the last part of the series. It would make sense, just in order to try and sort out the whole being shot on a beach thing. That is, if that's even sorted out this series. As I speak, I just don't know. We've been promised solutions, but hey, we've been promised solutions for a very, very long time, and that's fine. So if you want to look at this as an excuse to get rid of some people for a week, to give them a week off, so you can have the Doctor Heavy story that is Closing Time, that's fine. If you want to look at this as an actual narrative point where two beloved companions, or at least one beloved companion and his wife, leave, then that's fine. But I just don't feel it. That's possibly the only thing I don't like about this story. I just still don't feel the heart. And I know everyone else does, and I feel bad for it, because truly everyone else is feeling it. Everyone else is feeling the love, except me. Not to say I didn't like this story. This is one of my favourites. It truly is. Everything that I didn't feel last week and The Girl Who Waited, I felt here. Yes, there was, and I'm getting back to the original list point I was making earlier, a perfectly engineered new companion. And I know she was set up from the beginning, from the moment you saw her, as a red shirt, as someone who only existed in the plot to fulfill the point of dying, to make the point that the monster is a monster. Ah yes, the monster. Now, David Walliams isn't the villain in this. I thought he would be. The way he was shot, the way he was trailed, the way he'd been interviewed, the way he looked, did come across to me as, well, the monster. And to be fair, my own personal issues with Walliams, I just don't like him in things. I loved the first couple of series of Little Britain. I saw it live, I think twice. But the guy just seems just a tiny bit too intense. Ever caught him on a panel show? And I know he did that monumental panel show, but are you sure that wasn't just to keep him all, occupied while everyone else got on with comic relief? I'm rambling again, and not in a good way. I was worried when I saw that Walliams was going to be in this. As I've said, he's not my favourite performer. I have a lot more time for Matt Lucas. But that's fine. It's also not anything we actually need to go into here because we're talking about the God Complex, which is great because it's a twofold title. Yes, it represents the Doctor's I must save the universe attitude, but it also represents the hotel itself. It is a complex devised to make the creature feed on fear and worship. Well, worship, and it gets very confusing at that point because you really think you've grasped what's going on in the back of your head, and until you think about it and try and bring it out and write it down, you then go, I'm sorry, I've lost it. You see, it just doesn't quite make sense to me. The Minotaur thing is caught in a giant floating kidnapping device that brings people up so that he can feed on them, in the sense. Isn't it a lot like locking up a molester in a travelling school bus? It just doesn't work. It's giving him exactly what he wants. Alright, not on huge areas, but it's still letting him commit the crimes he was locked up for in the first place. I don't quite get that. And the whole business of the Doctor having to break Amy's faith was gorgeously well executed, but it did ring some lovely, lovely classic series bells where the Doctor had to break Ace's faith in the Curse of Fenric. Normally, I'd insert the sample here, but as I actually want you to hear this sometime this week, I won't bother inserting the sample. You can find it for yourself, track down the episode and watch it, it's not a problem. Ah yes, gratuitous use of Minotaur. This is the 4th Minotaur appearance in Doctor Who. Let's go through the list. First one, Mind Robber. I know it's not real, that's the whole point of the Mind Robber. It's as real as Doctor Who needs it to be. Minotaur number 2, the Time Monster. A mutation caused by Kronos is the best way of putting it across. It gets complicated if we have to talk in any more depth about it. Minotaur number 3, the Naimon. Yeah, and it was lovely to hear her mention. I'm sure I wasn't the only old school fan who punched the air. Well, smirked a little bit when he heard the word Naimon used. Can't really picture me punching the air, can you? I don't know, perhaps you can. Now, of course, there are also references to the other Minotaur, the original Theseus and the Minotaur storyline where the 4th Doctor talks about having a scarf unravelled. It's not important for the pedantic, or at least the sort of people who care about that sort of thing. I just needed to put that in. Also, tiny bit of me really felt echoes of more of a Big Finishy vibe, or one of the Doctor's new adventures. Again, we're back to the 7th Doctor, but the 7th Doctor usually knew what was going on. There is an audio, I believe it was the 5th, written by Jonathan Bloom, starring the 7th Doctor, Ace, and yes, I think it was the very first appearance of Bernice Summerfield, called The Fearmonger, and that was set in a hotel. It had some very strong similarities. Yes, I know the setting of a hotel is ideal for Doctor Who because of the corridors. It felt a little like that. Creatures that live on fear in hotels and things like that. But of course, if you want monsters based in hotels, look no further back than the 8th Doctor story, Situation Vacant. All to a certain extent. All I'm doing here is drawing parallels. Basically, I liked it. It was a great story. It was filmed beautifully. Yes, someone made a list of things that people were frightened of and then worked their way methodically through them. Yes, a lot of people are frightened of ventriloquist dummies. And I like to think of myself as an ex-goth, or at least, I still have my goth union card. I don't find ventriloquist dummies as upsetting as some people do, but that's fine. They basically work their way through the list. Yes, a father having a go at a child for being stereotypically underachieving by getting a B. We've all been there, we've all seen it before, that's fine. I can live with all of that. It brings us all the way to the end sequence. I don't want to be there at your funeral. I understand that's what Rory and Amy are doing. They just seem to have abandoned any thought of getting back in contact with River Song or Melanie or their child, or trying to get her childhood back or anything like that. They've just abandoned it. It doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. And I'm sorry, it doesn't. If you're going to go to the hassle of having family rammed down our throats, you have to follow through. Yes, Jackie Tyler and the whole of the Rose Tyler family were annoying, but I felt their annoyance for a reason. See, I don't know what I want. I'm a Doctor Who fan. I'll probably moan and then think about something and then look back in years to come and think, you know what my favourite episode of this whole series was? It was Black Spot. It was the one I watched the most on repeat. What a surprise. We don't know what. We're too close to it to react. But yes, it was touching. It was meaningful. I was annoyed. But they've gone. Apparently, I'm thinking for a fortnight, but that's just me. If they've gone forever, hey, that's fine. Right, I've rambled far too much. I just need to say that next week it appears we have some lovely Cybermen, and that's something I'm genuinely looking forward to, as well as, of course, James Corden. Is that a Cybermat, or are you just pleased to see me? Be seeing you. You have been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are all trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Contact us at tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk.
Don't stand a chance. Tell him, Doctor. He's got it wrong.
The Time Lord has failed. The wolves of Fenric have released me.
The Doctor never fails. I've got faith in him. Complete faith.